Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm a big boy, I can take them. X-Zone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. To listen to the X-Zone broadcast network or to find out what is playing and some of the other great shows we have available for you, visit xzbn.net. And for the X-Zone TV channel, it's channel 21 on simultv.com. My guest this hour is my good friend in New York City who does 3 million push-ups every day. Yes. And, of course, I'm talking about the one and only Howard Bloom. And, Howard, how the heck are you, good friend?
Rob, I would be great. 900 push-ups this morning. I was totally shocked.
Wow.
If it weren't for the fact that your slogan, the place where fact is fiction and fiction is fact, is becoming the most potent reality in our daily lives. A couple of days ago, a friend of mine in the military, and he's at a reasonably high level, sent me a note in which he summed up something we've all heard, but it hadn't hit me this hard before, that one of the aspects of this Russian asymmetric warfare, using cyber war, information war, to undermine us, which has been incredibly effective. One of its key tenets is you put out a story, then you put out a story denying the story, then you put out a story denying the denial of the story, so that people have no idea of how to discern what the truth is. And if you can cut the roots of the truth out from under people's feet, they go into something called learned helplessness. They are flooded with a thing called substance P. It makes them docile. And in the last, I should not be feeling docile at this point. I don't know if we've got the time, but I got to tell you what happened to me at Montgomery Air Force Base in Alabama back in May. I flew down there because a friend of mine was retiring from the military at a lieutenant colonel grade. And a retirement from the military, at least in this case, was like a graduation, a bar mitzvah. God knows. So 5 of us from the space community flew down there. People from NASA, people from the National Space Society, independent entrepreneurs in the space business, because we'd been told there was going to be a little mini space symposium. And we sat down with 2 of the guys who wrote literally the textbooks on space strategy, and with a 4-star general. Now, the 4-star general is somebody I've been thrown together with for the last 4 years. And a year ago, he sent me this email out of the blue saying, "You are a peerless leader." Well, every once in a while, you get a leader that sort of makes your knees buckle. I mean, you get an email that just, it stuns you. I mean, to get that kind of praise from a guy whose whole business is leadership was unusual. And in the process of this meeting, I came up with something simple, a $2 billion moon program. And the $2 billion moon program, I mean, right now NASA's talking about needing an extra $30 billion to get humans to the moon. That's total horsepucky. That is just not true. Yes, it would be great for the bottom lines of Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Northrop Grumman, but it has nothing to do with the reality of getting us to space. The $2 billion moon program goes like this. We give $1 billion, which is chump change in NASA terms, to the first company that can land a big, roomy human habitation on the moon. We give another $1 billion to the company that can set up that habitation and run it. That's it. Then we're up and running with humans permanently on the moon. So the general in the room, I tried to give him leadership of this since there seemed to be general agreement in the room that this was a good program. And the general kept thrusting it back to me. Well, 2 weeks ago or so, I took the train down to Washington, and I met knee to knee with Newt Gingrich about this. Newt Gingrich, his politics, I disagree with dramatically, but he is a smart man, and he's very into space, and he really understands the landscape in space. And he had at the table with him Bob Walker. Bob Walker is a former congressman who was the spokesperson for the NASA transition team when Trump first came into office. Then we went to the office of a Democratic congresswoman, and we briefed her staff. Apparently, we're going to go back down to Washington and do this kind of thing again, and I gave the general the assignment of getting us to Mike Pence. So I should be feeling fairly in control.
You should, yes.
But I'm not.
Why not?
I mean, I think this is very common. I think a lot of us are plunging into learned helplessness and the Stockholm Syndrome because our ability to determine the truth has disappeared.
Who do we blame for that?
Well, the Russians. I mean, Vladimir Putin is a KGB guy. PSYOPs were very big in the 1990s when he was still in the KGB. And today you do PSYOPs using the Internet. And the Russians, asymmetric warfare, they have a name for their alternative warfare. It's slightly different. They have a whole doctrine of it. But they have put a vast mass of people to work confusing us. They've not just done it in the United States. First of all, okay, I know we disagree sometimes about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Ads in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the Boston Globe, basically saying the words of Vladimir Putin's dreams. It's time to dissolve the Western Alliance. He didn't say it precisely that way, but that was the undercurrent. And he has been carrying out the Vladimir Putin program. He has been advocating the Vladimir Putin program for the suicide of the West so that Russia can be the great superpower, the world empire that it's always wanted to be. He has been doing this since 1987. It's not something new. So it's not surprising when he's in office, everything that he does serves Russian interests. He points us away from the Russians, and, well, he's fortunately on the case of the Chinese. That is very good, because the Chinese are stealing all our technologies, and the next technology on their plate, according to my space contacts, I mean, you know, I'm the board of governors of the National Space Society, and according to my military contacts and my civilian contacts, The Chinese are in the business right now of buying interests in as many American space companies as they can so they can steal their technologies, then reproduce the technologies in China, sell them at 30% of what they cost, and wipe the American space industry out. And our space industry right now is our greatest hope. NASA is dead in the water. NASA is a dead dinosaur. It's really unfortunate. $33 billion a year is just passing through NASA's pockets directly into the pockets of the SMIC, the Space Military Industrial Complex, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing for the most part. That's treason. That's sabotage, to be knifing your own country in the back.
But nobody's doing anything about it, Howard. So how can you be so sure that what you're thinking and what you're saying is actually correct?
Because when I sit down with a general, when I sit down with lieutenant colonels, when I sit down with people who've been in the space industry for years, I run a thing that Buzz Aldrin conned me into founding, but they all know this. They are the ones who've been educating me about this. It took years to open my eyes to what was going on, years of constant education.
But could it just be sour grapes from these people?
Not at all, no. Because if you look at what's happening, SpaceX, if we do the $2 billion moon program, who are the candidates? They are SpaceX, which is building a rocket capable of carrying 100 people to the moon or to Mars, which already has a rocket, the Falcon Heavy, that is the most powerful rocket currently functioning on the face of the Earth. Lots of things could be done with that rocket to get a real space program. And there is a guy in Nevada, and he's a total UFO fan. His name is Bob Bigelow, and he bought this technology of inflatable habitats from NASA 15 years ago, and he has been building a moon base. He has been fabricating a moon base, and he's not the only one involved. One of the very big, it's something or other Owens and Merrill, Skidmore, Owens and Merrill, one of the biggest architectural firms in the world. They have been brought on board by the European Space Agency to design moon habitations. Now, they're nowhere near Bigelow. Bigelow's got his product almost packaged and ready to run. You could, if you were NASA, you could order it by Amazon. So put a Bigelow habitat on the top of a Falcon Heavy rocket, which currently exists, land it on the moon. Then, now, what we're missing here is some sort of crew vehicle that can land on the moon. And that, I mean, we have Elon Musk's Dragon. Now, the original version of the Dragon has retro rockets, and I'm told that those retro rockets cannot quite achieve the force that it needs to land on the moon, which is hard to believe because it was designed to achieve the force that it needs to land on the Earth, which has 6 times the gravity of the moon. But we have all these devices that are in the works. What's his name? Bezos. That's how you're supposed to pronounce his name. Jeff Bezos. So here I was in an airport after having developed this $2 billion moon program in Montgomery, Alabama, and which makes him very powerful. That is Richard Shelby's Pork Barrel project, this rocket called the SLS. It was supposed to be ready to fly in 2015.
All right, Howard, we've got to take a break. Please stand by. Okay. Let our listeners know what your website is, Howard.
It's howardbloom.net.
All right, we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shamans worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com.
simultv.com.
Howard Bloom is our guest, www.howardbloom.net. And Howard, you were telling us about this $2 billion moon project, or how to get us to the moon in $2 billion. You were also telling us about Jeff Bezos and a number of other people, the meetings that you've had with Newt Gingrich, right, the former Speaker of the House, and others. Why then, Howard, is it taking so long to get back to the moon?
Good question. A high-level person at NASA retired about 2 years ago, and came to my birthday party and brought his son with him, and he went back to visit his NASA buddies, and they said, if we think we're going to let you set foot on the moon, you've got another thing coming. We are actively being knifed in the back by NASA and the SMIC, the Space Military Industrial Complex. Here's the latest. Now, first of all, that Space Launch System rocket that has never flown and may never fly, but is costing $30 billion, while it costs less than $1 billion to develop the Falcon Heavy, Elon Musk's rocket. This is ridiculous. If it ever launches, it will cost between $1 billion and $2 billion per launch. And the government anticipates 34 launches of this thing. That's $70 billion. Yeah. Do you know what you could buy for the price of just one of those Space Launch System launches? You could buy 22 launches of the Falcon Heavy, the biggest rocket on the face of the planet. Now, what could you do with 22 launches? You could do an entire moon program, and you could do an entire Mars program. Remember, to demonstrate the Falcon Heavy and test it out, Elon Musk put a little red Tesla on the top of his Falcon Heavy rocket, and guess where he sent it? On a trajectory that will cross the trajectory of Mars. This thing is designed for Mars and for the moon. So we could buy a space program, a real space program, for a song if we would just turn to Bigelow, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, and anybody else who wants to get into that game, including the SMIC. But the SMIC is not going to be the Space Military Industrial Complex. And they have a new boondoggle, and they're going great guns at signing up international partners for it. It's called the Lunar Gateway, and it helps explain why those guys at NASA told my high-level friend that there's no way we're going to let you set foot on the moon. It's because the Lunar Gateway, which will make a fortune for Lockheed Martin, is this tiny little pseudo-space station, too cramped for humans to really spend any time there, that will orbit the moon. So they are putting all our money into never getting to the moon. Orbiting the moon is not landing on the moon. And guess who have plans to land on the moon? The Chinese. So this will be a great place to watch in desperation as the Chinese below you actually begin to do what they've talked about, which is building what they call a palace on the moon, which looks very much like a Bigelow moon base, and colonizing the moon. And they say, first we're going to colonize the moon, then we're going to colonize the solar system. In the meantime, we're going to do something else. we're going to harvest solar power in space and send it back down to Earth. Now, Rob, you and I must have talked about this in one of our
many times.
Yeah, right. It's because Dr. APJ Kalam, the 11th president of India, the most popular president in South Asia, and I worked together for 4 years on promoting the idea of harvesting solar power in space and beaming it down to Earth using the kind of radio waves, simple waves, that your cell phone uses, microwaves. And we got nowhere in the United States. But guess who's been spending millions and millions of dollars on developing this ever since the 2000 aughts? It's the Chinese. And the Chinese plan is to have their first functioning space solar power satellites up by 2035 and to control the world's energy market by supplying non-carbon producing, non-greenhouse gassing producing solar energy from space, taking over the energy industry. They have so many plans for leading the world if we lose our grip, and we are losing our grip, that it's ridiculous.
But Howard, they can have all these plans. Doesn't mean that they're actually going to succeed.
But they've succeeded so far. They have a timeline, and the timeline seems to have dates in the distance, or it did when they started to roll it out almost 10 years ago. But they have achieved everything on their timeline, and they have achieved it when they said they would achieve it. They've dedicated an entire factory right now to manufacturing space solar power stuff. We haven't gotten anywhere near that.
But the Chinese are also very good at the art of propaganda.
Yes, they are, and but I doubt that this is false because, remember, they have a rover now called Chang'e 4, which they projected that they would have on their timeline, and they got it up precisely when they said they would get it up, and they said this 8 to 10 years in advance, and it's the only rover to ever reach the far side of the moon, and it is prospecting at the south pole of the moon, and guess what there is at the south pole of the moon? The equivalent of lunar gold. In space, the gold of space is not platinum, it is not cobalt, it is not titanium, although all those things can be mined in space. It is water, because water is breathable, water is drinkable, and water is rocket fuel. So the Chinese right now have basically laid the equivalent of the beginning of a claim to the south pole of the moon, and the south pole of the moon is where the riches of the water.
But who owns the moon? Who has the rights to the moon?
Well, what's going to happen is that he who lands first will establish rights.
But the Americans landed first. So why don't the Americans establish the rights?
Because we didn't stay there. We don't have anything functioning up there right now. All we have are orbiters around the moon right now. But there's an analyst named Namrata Goswami, and she's a terrific global analyst. And she's from India, obviously, but she lives in the United States now. And her husband is a lieutenant colonel and one of my close friends. And Nami did a 27-page testimony to an American committee on the Chinese threat. Basically, it's a government committee, and it is startling. And one of the things she points out over and over again is that everything the Chinese have said they would do, they have done. They have a slow but steady program. It steals an awful lot of technology from us, from the United States, Rob, an awful lot of technology. But they have a plan to utilize that technology, and we do not. So I spent 6 days in a Washington hotel a week or two ago for the annual meeting in the National Space Society, and I ran into my friend Paul Jaffe, who's with the Naval Research Lab. And Paul Jaffe has been developing a modular unit for space solar power. He's gotten the tiny whiffs of money he's worked with, presumably from the Naval Research Lab. But suddenly, for the first time, budgets have appeared for space solar power. Northrop Grumman came up with $17 million to pay a group of people at Caltech to come up with a really interesting space solar power idea, and that team was led by Sergio Pellegrino, who was a leader of the team that I was involved with in developing the interplanetary smart tile, the multiplanetary smart tile. So Sergio and I know each other. And meantime, Paul Jaffe from the Naval Research Lab was telling me that there was $40 million set aside in the budget for space solar power for the first time ever. And that if we didn't save it in 30 days, it would be gone. And if it was gone, there was an additional $150 million that was supposed to be spent over the next 5 years and all of that $150 million would go. So I sit in on the board meetings of the National Space Society, and as I said, I'm on the board of governors, and I made damn sure that we have a lobbyist who is working to save that money right now. Well, what are we really working to save? Are we working to save $40 million? We're working to save America's behind. Because America is behind. Because under Donald Trump, America's in a state of turmoil. So at least, meanwhile, Europe is in a state of turmoil. And England is in a state of turmoil. Boris Johnson is leading the pack when it comes to being the new prime minister, and he is a thorough Brexiteer, and he wants to abandon or hit the ejection button from the European Union as soon as he possibly can, no matter what the consequences are. I mean, what's going to happen? One of London's major industries is finance. There's a section of the city of London called the City, and it's where all the financial leaders are. And will they have to move their offices because to another country because England is no longer a part of the European Union? And meantime, the parties that that Vladimir Putin has been supporting are winning all over Europe. Marie Le Pen has won an important position in France. The Italians are totally beholden. The new Italian right-wing politicians who are running the country are totally Putin fans, absolute Putin fans. They make pilgrimages to see Vladimir Putin.
You know, we're coming up to a commercial break here, Howard, but here's a very simple question. If Putin's ideas are working for domination, why the hell don't the other countries play his game?
Well, because to play his game means playing a different game. To play his game means having a solidly knit Western alliance. It means having a solid European Union. And Putin's game is destroying the sinews, the tendons that hold those organizations, those institutions together. And he couldn't have a better ally than Donald Trump.
Well, I don't agree with you on that. I really don't. I really don't agree that Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
Right. I think, but I'm smiling because we have these disagreements, and I always enjoy hearing your point of view.
My point of view is that he seems to be doing great for the country. In fact, I'm going to make you a prediction right now. He's going to win the next election with a majority.
Well, that could easily be.
Yeah, we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Howard Bloom is my guest, www.howardbloom.net. Don't go away.
How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Did you expect your business to flourish, but instead it plateaued or didn't get off the ground yet? Would you like to achieve massive goals and discover new sources of income within your business? When you're ready to experience that type of success with fast results, Cindy Hendricks is the business coach for you. Her work with entrepreneurs and business owners has been life-changing. To get you and your business where you want to be, go to imaginemoresuccess.com.
Has the fear of public speaking stalled your business or personal life? What would you give to develop and maintain supreme confidence? Have an invaluable private program to always perform at your best. Imagine how you would feel. You can have all that and so much more today with Thomas Hyde's life-changing course called Number One Fear Unleashed. Visit numberonefear.com and be liberated from your fear of public speaking.
Howard Bloom is my guest, www.howardbloom.net. And Howard, we can blame President Trump for a lot of things. A lot of people do. I've said from day one that it takes a business person to run a country because a country is a business. Trump seems to be accomplishing everything he said he would do. I love what he's doing with the immigration policies. I believe kick them out. Bang. You come into a country illegally, get the hell out, whether it's Canada, the United States, or Great Britain. We can't blame President Trump on what's happening in Europe. We can't blame him for Brexit. The only thing that I can see is that we can blame the rest of the world who's sitting on their laurels doing nothing except complaining about the allegations about President Putin. Nobody's doing a damn thing about it except complaining.
We don't know, because there was a report issued a few days ago in the New York Times that we have infiltrated the Russian energy grid, which the Russians have long ago done to us, and the Iranians have probably done to us, and the North Koreans have probably done to us. But apparently we finally did it. And that is when Donald Trump said that the New York Times is traitorous for revealing that fact. But you are right about one of the things that you said before we cut for the commercial break. The stock market was in the 19,000 to just below 20,000 range when Barack Obama left office, despite the fact that it had grown substantially under Barack Obama. It is now at 26,000. That's an astonishment, an absolute astonishment. Employment had been growing for 6 years under Barack Obama, just like the economy had.
Right.
And the growth rates were big. Those growth rates have actually seemingly increased a small amount under Donald Trump, and the employment figures were extremely good for 6 straight years under Barack Obama, and have not only remained extremely good, but they've sometimes exceeded those of Barack Obama. So the economy is in a state that Alan Greenspan used to call basically a state of delirium. There's an irrational exuberance, was what he called it. And irrational exuberance is the basis of a strong economy. So that is going well. It continues to prosper seemingly despite this trade situation with China, and Trump is very brave to take on the Chinese. It takes guts. He may or may not be doing it in the right way. Nobody knows. But one way or the other, the Chinese have got to stop stealing our stuff.
I agree.
And then putting us out of business. So he gets kudos for that. This business of saying that our entire intelligence organization has to be directed at Mexico and should not be directed at our enemies is absolutely silly. The fact is that Xi Jinping is going to have a meeting with Korea's Kim Jong-un in a few days. It's going to be the first one from a Chinese president ever, or in 14 years. It's hard to decipher the various reports. But one way or the other, it's a major deal because Kim Jong-un knows something that Donald Trump doesn't. Donald Trump doesn't think alliances matter. He thinks that everybody's taking advantage of us. Kim Jong-un knows that alliances matter. He knows that having Putin and Xi Jinping, having Russia and China in his pocket, makes him strong, makes him powerful. And there's no way he's ever going to give up his nuclear weapons. But he knows something that many people will suspect but don't seem to be able to act on. All you have to do is praise Donald Trump and tell him what a wonderful person he is, and he will fold on anything. And the Iranians should have learned that lesson. The Iranians are refusing to sit down with Donald Trump and talk. Frankly, all Donald Trump wants with this saber rattling is to sit down with him and talk. And why should the Iranians talk to him? Because all you have to do is tell Donald Trump he's the most wonderful person in the world and he's a miracle, and his landslide was the biggest landslide the world has ever seen, and his movement is unlike any the world has ever seen.
Let me ask you something here, Howard. I've known you for many years. Why do you hate the president so much?
He doesn't tell the truth.
Well, wait a second. Not one president ever has.
There's been nothing like this in American history. In the past, if a president was caught lying, it was a scandal.
But
now there's so many lies a day that you can't. That your head is spinning. My head is spinning.
All right, but when you look at the big picture, Howard, the guy's doing a fantastic job. And I think what's happening here is you have a business person who is not kissing the ass of every politician that he crosses, and this is ticking them off. Because he's not playing by the rules Washington wants their president to play by.
Right. And he's not, and he's threatening constantly to not play by the rules of something called the Constitution. Well, and that's dangerous.
Well, how long did the Mueller investigation take? He was found innocent by Mueller. The people.
No, he wasn't. Not at all.
Oh, come on.
That is not true.
Come on.
Absolutely not true.
Come on.
Nowhere in the Mueller report does it say there is no collusion. What it says is a conspiracy, to be an illegal conspiracy.
Right.
The conspirators have to sit down, work out an agreement, put it on paper, and sign it. And Donald Trump, despite incredible involvement with Russia, and incredible doing what Russia wants, never sat down and signed a piece of paper like that with Vladimir Putin, so there is no conspiracy that you can legally charge him with. That's what the report says.
All right, okay, so I'll give you that. But, God, let's look at the alternative. Hillary Clinton, the biggest skank in political history.
Oh, I don't think so.
Come on. She did more to slap the American public around than any other president.
Oh, I totally disagree. But Bill Clinton, what Donald Trump has not been able to compete with is the growth rates and the economic growth rates and the job rates of the Clinton administration. Now, the Clintons lucked out. Or at least Bill Clinton did. He was the only president at the time. Hillary was not president. But he lucked out because the dot-com phenomena was happening, because the Internet, a whole new frontier, was being explored and developed commercially. The way we need to develop the moon commercially, the way we need to develop Mars commercially, the way we need to develop asteroids commercially. And it led to a boom in the American economy that just happened to coincide with Bill Clinton's reign. Just like this current economic rise from 2010 until 2009, you can't necessarily ascribe to a given president, because 6 years of it took place under Barack Obama and 2.5 years of it has taken place under Donald Trump. One way or the other, these economic feats are phenomenal. But the fact is that we have to keep our eyes on our real enemies. When Kim Jong-un was unhappy with Sony Pictures for doing a satirical film about killing him. What did he do to Sony Pictures? He hacked into them, got their private emails, and drove the president of Sony Pictures out. That was a preview that was what North Korea could do 4 years ago. Think of what they can do now. The real war is taking place in cyberspace.
But how do we know, Howard, that the United States is not working behind the scenes and is not doing what they should be doing? Because you've got the president saying one thing to distract the distractors and let the enemy, for a bit lack of a better word, think that he's doing this with the right hand when actually the left hand is working behind the scenes to rectify the problems. How do we know this isn't happening?
That would be wonderful, but my friends in the military don't think that's what's happening. They are very seriously concerned about the Chinese menace. They are very seriously concerned about this pollution of the American mind that takes place when you come out with stories giving three different points of view on something and totally confuse the public and lead it into learned helplessness.
Right, but my question is, how do we know for a fact that the right things are not being done?
Because, this is not absolute certainty, Rob. No question about that. But my friends in the military at reasonably high levels, and they would probably know if these things are not being done, and they would probably not show such extreme alarm as they are showing. And you can't mention Russia around Donald Trump. He's the commander-in-chief.
Right.
Russia is undermining us.
How is Russia undermining us? Tell me that.
I just did. Three different versions of a phony story, feeding fake news to us all over the place, and we can't tell what.
But God, people are doing that throughout the United States to the American public as well.
Well, that's true. We do tend to produce our own diverse points of view, but we've been able to produce them in a way that was handleable by a normal human mind.
I agree, but I think what we have happening here is that mainstream media, in their thirst for ratings and their thirst for the advertising dollar, have stooped as low as possible in order to create fake news, because now if it don't bleed, it don't lead. And I blame mainstream media.
I will tell you with absolute certainty that the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post are not producing fake news. The Atlantic is not producing fake news.
But aren't the newspapers you just mentioned?
Policy Review is not producing fake news.
But aren't the media that you mentioned, aren't they against President Trump?
They certainly are, and they're digging up facts all over the place.
So as
about the fact that in 2007 and 2008, Donald Trump had piled up 6 bankruptcies.
All right, hold on here. We've got to take our final break, Howard. X-Zone Nation, Howard Bloom is my special guest. And if you'd like to find out more about Howard, visit him online at www.howardbloom.net. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Now, if you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And to find out what, who, where, when, and why is happening on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit xzbn.net. And for the X-Zone TV show, Channel 21 on SimulTV, simultv.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Christopher Fulton is a survivor of the national security state. All he wanted to do was preserve history when he acquired a Cartier watch from the estate of President Kennedy's personal secretary. But that simple act set off a terrible chain reaction. He was pursued by the U.S. Justice Department and the FBI, thrust into the middle of the U.S. government's Assassination Records Review Board, even monitored and pursued by the Russian government. All because that Cartier watch was the missing link of evidence, a timepiece worn by JFK that fateful day in Dallas, a link resulting in Christopher being incarcerated and attacked for 9 years years because he opened a hidden chapter in history. The intriguing journey outlined fully in Christopher Fulton's memoir, The Inheritance, is available now through TrineDay.com or Amazon.com. The Inheritance, Poisoned Fruit of JFK's Assassination by Christopher and Michelle Fulton is a must-read, an incredible tale of how easily our own government can overrule justice. The Inheritance, Poisoned Fruit of JFK's Assassination.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and Howard Bloom is my very special guest this hour, www.howardbloom.net. You know, Howard, when I look back at what you were saying about Russia and China, is it possible that all this negativity and all this problem that we seem to be embellished with China and Russia, North Korea, is it possible that all this could have happened over 2 years? Or are we saying that because it's happening now, it's at the surface now, that it's the fault of President Trump, when in fact this has not just happened over the last couple of years. The other presidents and the other political people who have been in Washington must share some of the blame.
I agree with you totally.
Yeah.
We have been asleep at the wheel when it comes to China. And Trump, as I said, is doing valid work and valorous work in standing up to the Chinese at this point. It is a multi-generational, or not even a multi-generational.
Right.
It's a many-presidential problem. And the thing with Russia, well, Russia was trying to undermine us in the days of the Soviet Union, which is when they schlepped poor Donald Trump over to Moscow and gave him a royal treatment and sent him off glowing. It was active in trying to undermine us then. It was active in trying to undermine us in the 1950s when we had the phrase communist dupes, which is what I believe, you will disagree with me, but that is what I believe Donald Trump is, doing their bidding without knowing it and without getting any orders on paper. He doesn't need to.
Okay, so let me ask you this, all right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump is the president. He is the commander-in-chief.
Right.
But he also has people that consult with him and are his his generals, his intelligence agencies, and so on.
That's no longer true. What Donald Trump has done is impose a discipline on the White House such that you can only get to Donald if you tell him words of praise and
How do you know that, Howard?
Well, from all the reports I get, plus, okay, this is going to sound loony, Rob.
Okay.
But one of the reasons I was able to succeed with people like Prince and Michael Jackson is that sometimes I can, the old word is grok. I can totally comprehend an individual. I don't want to put it in those terms. I can feel a person in my gut, and I can mirror that person in my gut. And one of the people that my gut has been mirroring more strongly than most of those that I've ever met in my life is Donald Trump. Now, you could say that's crazy, that's lunatic, that's bizarre.
Let me just ask you this question, and that'll answer my question. If Donald Trump would have been a Democrat, would you have a different feeling for him?
Probably not, because he screws people. Probably not because he uses his bankruptcies, or he has used his 6 bankruptcies to not pay people.
That's business.
No, that's not business.
That is business. Corporations do that all the time.
Business person.
Yep.
I ran 2 successful businesses.
Right.
I founded them from scratch.
Yep.
I never screwed anybody.
But that's you. That's you, Howard. But in the real business world, this is what happens. It's not a nice thing. It's not a nice thing. I agree with you. Hold on here.
Okay.
I agree with you. It's not a good thing to do, to screw people. But it's business. He did not break the law.
Okay. I wrote a book called The Genius of the Beast, a radical revision of capitalism.
A very good book, I might add.
Okay, and I wrote it to save Western civilization, and I'm not kidding. I'm not being grandiose. That's why I spent 7 years on it, despite the fact that no publisher would touch it. in the beginning. And what does it say? It says there is a hidden mandate in capitalism. Be messianic. To earn $1, save, uplift, upgrade, or empower a neighbor. To get $100, save, upgrade, or empower 100 neighbors. To get $100 million, save, upgrade, or empower 100 million people on this planet. And that is the job of capitalism. And only to the extent that they do it deliberately or they do it by accident do people make money. Now, Donald Trump has made his money. First of all, he's $600 million in the red. He is not a billionaire. Far from it. He's operating on borrowed money. And if he does that to the American economy, bankrupts it, woe be unto us all.
Yeah, but obviously, based on the facts, he's not doing that to the American economy.
Well, we got a $20 trillion debt now.
But he didn't incur that.
He incurred he's incurring a good portion of it. His tax plan is supposed to cost us $10 trillion over 10 years or something hideous like that. So he can't continue to operate on credit with America the way that he operated. Oh, well, you could say this about Democrats. I mean,
yeah, you can. Like, Democrats. What's the difference? You put them all in a bag, shake the bag up, pull it, put your hand in, you'll get another one.
But remember, under Bill Clinton, we balanced the budget. It was the first time in a long, long time, but we did balance the budget.
But But wasn't that before 9/11? Before the arms build up? Wasn't there a lot of history and current events that have to be put into that equation? Clinton's time was totally different.
Well, there's a very good point there, Rob. But look at what I described to you about what the space military industrial complex is doing to rip off the American public. Charging $30 billion for a rocket that has never flown, while Elon Musk charges $1 billion for a rocket that's the most powerful rocket on Earth. They are deliberately bleeding the American public. And when Donald Trump brags that he's put $740 billion into the military budget, how much of that is going to go into pure profits on the bottom line of Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and Raytheon? Most of it. Because they do not sell us good goods, and they deliberately delay the production or the perfection of those goods for years because they make money off of every change order. They make money off of every delay. A year ago, the head of Boeing was brought in front of a Senate committee. I believe it was a Senate committee, but he was brought in front of a congressional committee. And he was asked, since Boeing wanted to charge $890 million, that's close to $1 billion, for a delay on a rocket that it had promised to make by 2015, since that was his fault, if he would take responsibility, if he would swallow the $1 billion. And he said, absolutely not. Because those guys make money off of things that don't work, and they make money off of delays that go on forever. You give the same job to Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or people who operate in their manner, and you can get 30 weapons
Howard,
in the price of one.
Howard, you're sounding like a lobbyist for those people.
I am a lobbyist for those people.
Why?
They don't pay me a penny, but I believe profoundly in what they are doing.
Is it because that they're in line with your own ideology?
I don't know their ideology.
Well, sure, you must, because, they're independents. You love the independents who are creating the space, working for the space race. You're right into this. So I can't see a balanced argument here.
There isn't a balanced argument. I'm totally unbalanced about these guys for good reason, because they actually make things happen. They are not ripping off the American public. They get small amounts of money from NASA, and they do a lot of this on their own dime. And
how come you never ran for office with your attitude?
Well, I was on a plane from Minneapolis after visiting Prince. The plane was filled with neuroscientists who just done a neuroscience convention. I was delighted because I hadn't had anybody I could talk with about neuroscience with in a couple of years. And at the end of the night, they said, "Why don't you run for president?" I'd rather be talking to you.
But you can't make a change this way.
I'm trying. That's why I went down to Washington to sit with a man that I normally despise, Newt Gingrich, and that's why I came up with this plan, and that's why, I'm doing my best.
But Newt is very pro-Trump.
Yes, and if I have to work with people who are, look, you and I are friends, we love each other. It's not just that we're friends.
Right.
We've known each other for a long time. You've been through difficult circumstances during that time. I've been through difficult circumstances through that time.
Yeah.
Nothing will ever hurt us.
Right.
Are our political views the same? No, they're not the same. You work with the people that you, in the case of a Newt Gingrich, that you need to work with. And I do respect him on his points of view on technology and his points of view on space. And there's something more, Rob. The salvation of this country, America, and American civilization is not going to come from the government. It is going to come from people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. It is going to come from independent, you said it right when you basically said I'm a renegade. It's going to come from renegades who have their own personal visions of things and are capable of something most of us humans are not.
But that hasn't worked in the past.
They're capable of making things happen.
But that hasn't worked in the past.
Yes, it has. When I first met Elon, that's the entire American economy is based on that. J.D. Rockefeller, for example, was he was a pioneer on the very outskirts of things, taking a technology that nobody took seriously, a new invention called kerosene, and finding ways to refine it. And from that came Exxon. He was a renegade and an outsider at the time, but he was capable of making things happen. I first met Elon Musk in 2006. He said something very simple on stage in front of a group at the National Space Society's annual convention. He
Howard,
said,
I hate to do this, buddy, but we're totally out of time, and I want to thank you so much for joining us. Always a great pleasure talking to you. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about Howard Bloom, visit him online at www.howardbloom.net. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away. If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie, natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Eli Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now to receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X-Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games, No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand, live streaming events from around the world, interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.